Right, I have a poem from Joe Sanders called Identities. I'm in Venice, a longed-for dream, standing on the Humpy Bridge, a breeze in my face, watching a gondola as it parts the ripples below. No sounds of traffic in this place. I breathe out deeply, start to wander down dark alleys among little shops showing jewelry, glass, glamour, and ubiquitous Venetian masks. Obsessed by their beauty and mystery, the gold and feathers, precious stones, vivid paint, not only for carnival, but everyday wear in the Middle Ages. A freedom to be who you wanted or to express your hidden self. It was a great leveler, social distinctions blurred. The shy could be outrageous, the plain seductive, the air full of intrigue, terrible mistakes made. Far removed from theatre or carnival, the plague doctor's mask was frightening, its grotesque hollow beak full of flowers and aromatic herbs to stifle the stench of the stricken. He treated them, peering through the glass holes, wax cloth sealed. PPE of the 16th century. Nobody to clap him. But lots of people to clap Joe Sanders.
Indeed.
Well, with a poem like that, it's certainly worth giving a good round of applause. Have you got some for Mohammed to read, Peter, as well? Oh, you've gone all quiet on us, Peter. You still,
Shall I read them now?
It's your choice. Well, no, we can do it first, begin the second half if you want.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise people will be fed up with my voice.
Yeah, well, some people leave for part one, don't they? So we need to give them a good airing in part one. Right, we're going to the, we were going to go to Isleworth, but we're actually going to Chichester. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, George.
Hi, Steve.
Evening.
Right. Yeah, I'd just like to read you something that it started off as a kind of essay about a performance I did with my band, Ovid with Reverb, based on a poem. And the essay was for a kind of a mini conference. And in editing the essay, I thought, you know, can an essay be a poem or a prose poem? You know, can that subject matter cope with it? Or anyway, so I've written this thing that's divided into sections, and I'll just read one section, which is about preparing for performance and trying to link the past and the recent past together, kind of Ovid lyrics and kind of rock and roll Bo Diddley beats, and hopefully you get an idea of what I'm trying to do in this piece anyway. So here goes. Rehearsals began for a performance of the poem Alter Ego as a fusion of Ovidian and Bo Diddley influence. Different approaches were attempted, reciting verse in one breath, using beat as background, breaking verse into couplets and triplets. Finally, a solution was found, in part borrowed from the Rolling Stones' Not Fade Away, where a Bo Diddley rhythm is played in 4/4 time on the cajon, a riff on guitar, vocals sitting on top, spoken in and out of beat, an intuitive reading changing with each recital, an impro lead with deadpan tone on enthusiastic backing, creating contrasts of sounds, the Bo Diddley cajon containing both strict 4/beat and syncopated time, played off against the guitar's 2-part pattern, vocals and backing vocals slipping in and out, often arguing with each other as well as with the music in extra layers of syncopation, sections played without cajon, guitar making a repeating tune similar to rock and roll crooning classics such as Teenager in Love, providing respite from driving beat, echoing traditional sets LPs where rockers would be followed by slow numbers, or the guitar drops out, cajon and vocals sounding more insistent and parade ground, excerpts from classic tracks, Not Fade Away, Who Do You Love, rubbing against translations from Ovid, creating fractured timelines, present to recent to ancient past, and all this framed by a name checking of performers borrowing from Bo Diddley and writers adapting Ovid, and this interrupted by original material with beat as subject matter in all its historical and cultural metamorphoses, and the whole an assemblage, or is it bricolage, reminiscent reminiscent in dreams anyway of the second side medley from the Beatles' Abbey Road.
Oh,
That was great, Steve. We've got a true postmodernist poet there, but I don't think my dog appreciates so many mentions of cojones since he's just had his removed.
Cajon, George, not cojones.
Another pun. Sorry about the puns. They're slipping
Half
out
fun, I
tonight.
think it's called, like half rhyme.
Yes, that's true. Well, welcome to Lorraine and welcome to Robin, who's now joined us. Both of you, good evening. And Anthony, have you got any volume? Have you got any sound yet? Probably no. That's such a shame. Anyway, Chip, just when you get some sound, chip in during the break, like between poems, and let me know. That'd be good. All right, if you get sound, thank you. So we're going to move on to Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
hello, right. Oh, well, the first one's harking back to my past when I was sort of at school, but used to use my holidays to sort of earn some pocket money. And I used to work at the local hospital and various other places. And this one's about my time at Burrows and Welcomes. It's called Holiday Job. My mother told me they were crying out for workers, even me, with hands that could do with some employment. Before the sun had warmed the streets, I took a bus to Burrows and Welcome, donned an overall and set to work. Bottles, vials, ampoules, all to be upended onto hollow spikes for taps to flush hot water through the jets. Then trays of glassware to be lodged together on long racks of shelves and sterilised at oven heat. Next day, we had to turn black rubber bottle stoppers inside out. My fingers flew. I thought I'd hit on a technique and wondered why the others were so slow until I heard the hiss of time and motion as a group came round. I hadn't realised my pace could now become the norm, unsustainably quick and bound to end in loss of overtime. But Deirdre and Louise forgave me, showing me how to make a beehive of my hair, instructing me which shade of powder I should use and how to kohl my eyes. I sat with them in the canteen, eating sandwiches, looking forward to a different size of vial. The afternoon seemed long until the last batch cooled, and we stood fretting till the hooter went. And the next one's called Part Memory, Part Dream. Someday, I'll rid myself of ghosts. I could describe to you the weave and colour of their clothes and how they walk, corporeal but strange. Sometimes I meet their doubles in the street and want to ask them if they remember me, but they look straight ahead, communing with themselves. That ramshackle hall, the turning dance, a plague of bungalows on the waste ground where we kissed and looked at the stars. Ghosts gather round, then quick step off to other visitations, waking dreams. And the last one's about the first time I went to Australia, and I was really surprised that the darkness fell so quickly. There just wasn't any twilight, as there often is the case in the tropics. Fall of dark. After a day of tropic heat, dark came quickly with the chirr of insects, hiss of sugar gliders, hoots from unfamiliar owls. A day we thought would end in twilight shut like a door, and in the darkness frogs burped, then swelled into a throbbing chorus. Stumbling over the roots of bouillon trees, we kept to the path, followed by lightning bugs that zizzed all round us. Travellers newly arrived, where the stars shine upside down and merge with each other in a blurry swathe. The night was full of eyes, swishing sounds. Next morning, either side of the path, the slither marks of snakes. Right, that's it. Thank you.
That's lovely. Ruth, you write such beautiful poems. I was thinking that, all the sort of sounds in the tropical evening, the cicadas in the trees and the frogs burping away and all that kind of stuff. I went to Burroughs Wellcome in 1962, and I was quite interested in going into research. And I discovered they had these lovely Shire horses that they used to use as repositories for experiments. And I thought, I'm not going to work there, so I kind of kicked over the traces and didn't go. So there we are. Ended up in social work instead. So there. For my sins. Anyway, Steve Juno. Hi, Steve. Are you good to go?
Good evening, George.
Steve?
This one is called Silent Night. In the silence of the night, as I was wandering, the cars passed me speeding to their destination. The cool breeze brushed past my face as I journeyed my way back after a night of sound system raving. My journey was just a 20-minute walk from the venue I just attended, listening to ghetto sounds of the latest roots reggae. It was a night that fulfilled my appetite for good music. I even heard the new releases of my favorite artist by the name of Big Youth, with Redemption called Love in the Neighborhood, asking the occupants to get together and throw away bad mannerly conduct. Yes, I reached my home in West Bromwich, satisfied by the musical experience I had enjoyed. And this one's called Happiness. When growing up, I was a child full of so much joy and happiness and had an array of tremendous friends. I used to be the center of attention, causing no harm or bother to anyone, just humor and fun. As growing up in the 70s in West Bromwich, there was so much comedy. This was the time when Sir Lenny Henry from Dudley first came on screens in the talent contest, New Faces, which he won. At that time, there was so much exuberance and humor has changed over the years. My own personal happiness suffered when things began to go wrong for me, but still trying to hold on to my sense of humor despite difficulties. So a brave young man enjoying pleasure that wasn't meant for me. Thank you, George. Can't hear you, George. Can't hear you.
No, I can't.
George, you're muted.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Anthony.
Can you hear me now, Peter?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right, I don't know what I've done, but I've repaired it.
Oh,
You're
good.
muted. You're muted.
Ground control to Major George. Come in.
Unmute. What's happened to him?
I think Anthony's put his mute onto George's machine.
That's impossible.
Transferred it across.
Yeah.
We can't hear George. What's happened?
He's gone now, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's not good.
We've lost our leader.
Oh, lost George.
There he is, coming back.
Connecting to audio, right?
George,
Right.
I've got you back now.
Yeah, I've left and rejoined. So, but I've got a split screen again now. So I'll have to, anyway, I'll make the best of it. But anyway, I'm glad you're okay now, Anthony. That's good. But
Thank
I've only
you.
got 4 faces on my screen at the moment because it's kind of shrunk. I don't know what it's doing. So we can move on to Vivian. Vivian,
Okay,
okay.
right. Well, I'm muted, so which is good news. My first poem is one from an old Croydon Poetry Hour anthology book when the subject was landscapes. And I wrote a poem about that called Beyond the Ice. From beyond the ice, we can view the lakes, valleys, and snow-topped peaks that were once covered by an ice sheet so thick we couldn't see our tallest mountain. From beyond the ice, everything was covered in a white sheet with gusting winds, an icy desert, silent on the surface. But underneath all was chaos, the ice groaning, creaking, as it shifted the hidden landscape into different shapes. Beyond the ice, where we are standing, was tundra with little to see, except mosses and lichens clinging to life in the extreme cold. Facing north, the full force of the weather in our faces, the last ice age. One can only imagine, for no one was there, on or beyond the ice. Okay, and I've got one more, which is not mine. It's a poem I've wanted to read for a long time, and it's by one of my favourites, William Butler Yeats, and it's The Lake Isle of Innisfree. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian.
No problem.
The only faces I get up on my screen are those, along with me, who aren't muted. And I can't mute because I haven't even got a mute button at the moment. I've just got 4 little... Anyway, that's enough of my tragedies. Thanks very much, Vivian. Well read.
Thank
I liked
you.
your ice poem. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Can we hear from Robin now? Robin.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hope you can hear me. Yeah, as we've had a lot of weather today, I've dug out a couple of weather poems from the back catalogue. And the first one, funnily enough, is called Weather. Wind whip, rain lash, crash and boom of shifting pressure, buffeting billow of a monochrome sky. Birds fly at their peril, scooped and flung at the whim of air. Trees grip the soil, flex and flail, fill and thrash like shredding sails. Fronds flicker frenetic messages of doom. Patio pots prostrate themselves, roll anguished on the paved ground. The house creaks, speaks of other days like this. That's the first one. And yeah, the other one is called Weather Rap. It's been a cold day throughout the UK, and the weather for tomorrow will bring a lot of sorrow. In Scotland, there's snow, so mind how you go. If you're walking in the Pennines, watch out for the ice. A broken neck is not very nice. Yorkshire and Humberside, no snow today, though you'll probably get the odd tornado. Further south, there'll be rain, too much for the drain, so when you're on the motorway, watch out for the spray. The outlook for the Midlands is not much better. The satellite shows it will get wetter and wetter. On the Lincolnshire coast, and this might sound balmy, a deep depression will cause a tsunami. The whole of Wales will be whipped by gales. The force of these will tear up trees, so if you live in a forest, get down on your knees. Throughout the home counties, there's no reason for elation. The forecast is for a big precipitation, which will cause flash flooding, bringing lots of mud into houses built on the banks of rivers. And with wind chill too, there'll be severe shivers. In London town, there'll be fog and mist. If you can, stay at home, watch telly, get pissed. Down Cornwall way, you'll have a cloudy day, and there's also a risk of a thick sea mist, while out on the Lizard, there's a chance of a blizzard. In the Arctic Circle, there'll be warm, sunny weather. If you're anywhere else, Tough luck, whatever.
Is that it, Robin?
That's
You-
it. That'll
you ready
do for
part
today.
two? I hope you're with us for part two, aren't you? Or you're not sure?
I'll probably have to bail out at 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, take care and thanks for your lovely poems. Wonderful. Sums it up nicely. Right. If
Yeah,
we
we
get
don't-
any noise, I still when we get the halfway mark, I'm going to try and reboot my iPad and see if I can get a proper thing where I can mute and things full screen. Anyway, on to Lorraine. Lorraine, are you there?
Yes, I can't hear you very well, but I heard some of the others.
Okay,
You can hear me though,
I
presumably.
can hear you very well. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. I'm harking back to shelters from wars. I remember all of that very much, Chislehurst, etc. And then again at the Cuba crisis, I've now got nuclear shelters on my brain. And so this is called Soared Forth in Waves. Breakfast in bunk at 10:30, please. It's pointless now in reserving in the Chislehurst caves. It's not deep, and you've heard the Messerschmitt swerving, and you've heard the Messerschmitt swerving, while Heinkel soared forth in waves. This time around, everyone must dig rather steeper, in fact, 2 feet deeper than the height of a shipping container. Still supports are for a tough roof, preventing the grim reaper, and a concrete staircase leading down to safety is no brainer. Start now, have common sense. It'll take a considerable time. It must all be approved in a 2020, authorized and rubber stamped. There's no exemptions under the Planning Act, so don't yield to crime. Send in your planning permission to show how well you'd be cramped. Of course, the odds are what Elon Musk contends, exactly how life on Earth has to meet its ends. It might be easier to save up and not be martyrs. Pay him, pack your back and rocket off to Mars. So that's what I think. First of all, it was Chislehurst Caves, which I loved at the bunk. You know, it was just the right age for getting on all the bunks. And then 1962, when I was about to get married, and we were all thinking of nuclear shelters then. And now as well, you know, I'm thinking of where do we dig one now? But we're not. I'll read another one then, because I don't think I will in the second half. This is to do with step parents, which is sort of related to childhood, which they want tomorrow, the theme. And this is, I think sometimes having a step parent is very uncomfortable both ways. This is called Early Days. Be wary and watch your step. Yep. If you want a first-rate childhood, rustle up your grit, don't quit. Be wary and watch your step. But for Hansel and Gretel, who could and did grasp the nettle, Cinderella, Rapunzel, and Snow White didn't know how to fight, but they knew the difference between wrong and right. What you need for your early days is a compatible pair of adults who believe they bring forth best results. For you, your parents wanted to care and share your every joy and despair. Be wary and watch your step, or you'd be an outlaw for sure. If one parent gives up their partner to install a spare, pure dread's ahead and a child's heartbreak knows no cure. So don't stay hurt, be alert and sidestep the uncalled for unfair. The new setup damns the old, comfy, cozy nuclear family equation till a surrogate arrives to spurn any unwelcome young relation. Be wary and watch your step. Don't give in to expatriation. Like the fairy tales, run your own gamut of revenge and recrimination. So after all these awful things to little children, being assaulted and killed by a step parent, and that's what my poem is on. I had nothing like that, thank heavens, I was very lucky. But
No,
I've
wise
seen
word.
a lot that does happen, that sort of thing.
Wise words there, Lorraine. And also it's good. There's a kind of ring of someone who was there when you read your World War II poem as well. It was very authentic, and thank you.
Well,
Very good. Then we're going to go to John. John, are you around, please?
Hi. Yeah. Do you mean me up in
Yes,
Coventry?
please. Yes, there's only one, John.
Now, the first gentleman who read something out said he came from Chichester. Can I ask him, does he recognise that?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote about it. I've probably done it before, but never mind. When I wrote to Philip Larkin, who wrote his poem, An Arundel Tomb. And this was this was my little letter to him, and then his reply. Dear Mr. Larkin, please find enclosed a parody, if that's really the right word, of a poem you wrote a number of years ago. I was in Chichester a while back, and the enclosed bit of versification resulted from a number of visits to the Arundel Tomb. I hope you're no way offended by it. It's just really not meant to be poking fun at anyone. It just seems that having written the thing, silly not to show to you, since your original work was the spark causing me to write my little one. If what I've written causes you to smile, the hours of hard poetic graft will not have been in vain. Yours sincerely, John Greatrex. Now I've got a nice reply from him. Dear Mr. Greatrex, thank you for your poem. In my defence, I should say I only looked at the tomb for perhaps 2 minutes in the 50s. I've never seen it since. However, it stayed in my memory and produced the poem I wrote. It's not surprising I got the hands mixed up. I was more concerned to discover that the whole hand-holding business was a 19th century addition and not the sculptor's original conception. However, there were no postcards or articles available in those days. These have appeared since I wrote the poem. Yours sincerely, Philip Larkin. You can see they're holding hands, and his right hand is holding her left hand, which means that his right hand gauntlet is being held in his left hand, which is what I noticed and which is what he got the wrong way round in his poem. And this is my poem, Double Take at an Arundel Tomb. Have you been to Chichester? Have you seen the tomb? Stand in the cathedral one quiet afternoon and read what Mr. Larkin wrote about the Countess and her squire. Now look at the tomb, now again at the words, and decide if the poet's a liar. Observe the actual tomb, this symbol of eternal love. Which hand is it? The left or right without the glove? He states the left. But is it true? From what I saw when I was there, unless I'm much mistaken, it's the other one that's bare. Well, it's not what I expected. It's quite a tender shock, discovering a mirage where you thought you'd seen a rock. Does it really matter? Who's to say a writer's bound by truth? Perhaps he simply saw the tomb the wrong way round. When there, note too, the sword has snapped. No doubt some Tudor afternoon, a boy, his tutor's back was turned, leaned heavily upon the tomb. Also, a nose has been replaced with a slightly different coloured stone. Who knows? Perhaps these alterations were the sculptor's own. Jealous that time would break his work, he chose himself to be the rack. Like Prospero, destroyed his book. Excalibur, thrown back. Ah, what is truth? As Pilate asked. Things remembered? Things forgot? Is everything we know as fact mere speculation? Based on what?
Thank you, John. Is that a case of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing? Possibly. But very good. Well observed as well in many ways. You with us for part two?
Sorry, yes, I'll be with you in part two. Yeah,
Excellent. Okay, hear from you later.
thank you.
Can we move to Sue, please?
Yeah,
Sue.
hi. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I've not been here for a couple of weeks, couple of sessions. I had the dreaded COVID, so and I've not been well at all, and I'm better now though. So I've got 3 short poems, if that's okay, because I won't stay for the second half. And the first one's called Sufficient. Small stones and seeds, soft feathers, tiny perfect shells. We understand all this, how less is always more, how there is magic in the waiting, how love appears when least expected, how dusk can shrink a room, loud corners silenced, mirrors mute. Focus in on small sounds, half-heard interventions, wisps of birdsong tailing off, the quiet turning of a page. Evening folds us small, the silence growing still. First one. The other one, next one is called Songlines. It's about sort of Greek theatre. We've sung ourselves alive from the beginning. Here we are, still singing. Underneath the sun's hot eye, seated round the seeing place, theatre's healing ritual. Moving round the dancing square, amplified and hidden by their masks. The chorus that is all of us, debated virtue, sang its truth, while their archaic sun went down. As then, so it is now. Poetry makes nothing happen, but has a lot to say. And the last one, just a very short one. And it has got some weather in, so I think it's just fits in. Far from the dance. Every time that music slips me back, I should have held your hand, reached out across our small, forbidden space, our formal, absurd ice. I couldn't speak, you never heard. Unplayed duets, this deafening rain. Thank you.
Beautiful, Sue. Lovely as usual. Wonderful poem.
Tell you, I've got my new book is out.
Oh, good.
1st of March.
Called what? Sorry.
On the 1st of March, my new book is out, published.
Journey.
So,
Is it Journey?
Journey. If anyone's interested, it'll be on Amazon, and it's from Cinnamon Press otherwise. So it's quite
Cinnamon
exciting.
Press.
Yeah.
Oh, well
1st of
done.
March.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you for that, Sue. I look forward to reading that.
Thanks a lot.
I do like your poems a great deal.
Thank you.
When you were reading the first one, Sufficient, some line occurred to me. It's just, enough is something in our hands, will live to serve the future hour. I love that, you know.
Yeah.
Don't know where it comes from, but it's just something I remember. Anyway, we move on, and we've got Jim's not here, is he? Unfortunately, we're Jimless. No, John's looking for him, but no, we haven't got Jim, so we can move on to Anne. Anne, are you ready?
Yes.
Have we got? Lovely. Okay, Anne.
In my dreams, I travel through rough terrain and sepia waterways with a collection of companions, some real, some from fiction. Usually, we are fleeing from an unnamed enemy. Often, a young child needs to be rescued. I must be brave and determined. Waking, I return to a drab world of no adventure, where no courage is needed, no energy, no excitement. Traveling on, alone into the
Next one's called 60 Years Ago. We walked in Magdalen College gardens where fritillaries grew wild in the grass. We had met a week before. You said you had aunts with red hair. I embarrassed myself by telling you I'd always wanted Titian children. Nevertheless, we married. I did not have red-haired children. Now you are dead. I grow tame fritillaries in my garden amongst my memories. And a very short one called Now. When the past is a fog, the future a wall of unknowingness, we have only the present to lighten our way.
I was going to say our passion certainly in London remains undiminished for building tall buildings.
Can everyone mute, please? Thank you. And can you read that again, please? That last little one, if it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Now, when the past is a fog and the future a wall of unknowingness, we have only the present to lighten our way.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Anne. I found the 60 years ago very, very moving. It's lovely. And some of the imagery, the fritillaries and just the whole thing, it was wonderful. Thank you. Anthony, do you have your sound working fine now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay.
I've got 2 poems, maybe
Fine.
3.
Okay.
Okay, it's called Pale Daughters. Pale daughters don't follow their familial line or wash behind their ears. Waved in white light, they sport a smile when necessary, compelled by an accidental mischief. Pencils of exclusion rendered in the shade, I wouldn't go dancing on the almost air. Poem, it's called Summer. The chime of a church bell, the fugit ravens fly by. Longer days we are alive, where poppies grow taller under the midday sun. Bare heads celebrate their happenstance, where we have trodden on our freckled dreams. And let's see, and one more, if I may. It's short. Winter is back. Winter is all black. Its robe rubs salts into the wound. The convergent bruises rustle our conscience, gifting us a toad of happenstance. Angels and minotaurs don't speak for us. I say this quite apparition gives us an imperfect surprise, if only for an unrepentant moment.
Thank you, Anthony. Some lovely phrases there. I had this image of pale daughters with Titian hair, combining you and Anne. It was lovely, very nice poems. Thank you.
Thank you. They're all mine.
Yeah, they're good. They're nice. Yeah, I like them. I'm sure a lot of us do. Jane, are you there, Jane?
Yes, I am there.
Lovely, Jane. Thank you.
Yes, I can't remember whether it was you, George, or Peter, who said we could read Valentine's poems, even if the day's gone. Yeah,
I didn't say it, but I intend to.
I didn't say it either. But...
No, so my imagination. Anyway, I'm going to read a few Valentine's poems. The first one's called The Odd Couple. He likes coffee. She prefers tea. Her game is netball, his cricket. He adores children. She loathes brats. She hates window shopping. He loves browsing. She listens to Radio 4. Ooh, yeah. He tunes into Raga FM. Irie. He is a Coronation Street fan. Give her EastEnders any day. She finds Sainsbury's good value indeed. He favors Waitrose for quality appeal. She needs red meat for her pernicious anemia. He must eat white for his too high cholesterol. He takes a cool, brisk shower in the morning. She lingers in a warm bubble bath in the evening. He prefers the bedroom cool. She turns up the thermostat. Well, she rolls to the right. He faces the wall to the left. Deep Red Sea cleft in the middle, until someone makes the first move. The other relents. Together they consent, and the rest, as they say, is love history. This one's called Talk to Me of Love. I'm not even sure what it means, but I wrote it quite a while back. Talk to me of love, and I recall the rainbow you invented to beguile the sun one rainy day. But your rainbow proved, alas, not color fast, and so stained before fading into mist, the patchwork dream I'd weaved around my hopes. Talk to me of love, and you conjure up tropical rain, beating frenziedly upon a hot zinc roof. Those raindrops do cause a quickening in the veins before I yield to cozy somnolence, when rudely halts the pattering rain, and with it, my pleasant languor down the drain. Talk to me of love, and I'll paint you an illusion, a Dominican night, viewed from the porch of a house high on the hill. Magical night, wild almond scented, tinged with coffee blossoms and salt sea spray, extolled by a million stars, flaunting the reflection on a sleepy sea, mimicked by a masquerade of dancing fireflies, mutely mocking the fool who would possess a Dominican night. And I've got just one more. I wrote for Agnes. Memories for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is almost gone. No chocolates, no cards, no flowers for Agnes. But does she sit down and weep, lie prostrate and wail? Hell no. With the thickest, richest slice of carrot cake from Stratford's indoor market, she curls up beneath her duvet and tucks in. The first bite doesn't disappoint. It melts upon the tongue, lifting her as on the crest of an oceanic wave. The taste of nutmeg, cinnamon, and ginger of the second bite evokes one of those splendid crimson sunsets lingering over Grand Bay every evening at 6 p.m. precisely. By the time she's polished off the last crumb, she's right there with her mum in the carnival band, clutching the protective hand, gingerly swaying. Eyes now tight shut, she is whisked to a place where, spellbound, she listened to tales by moonlight of tricksters, Brer Rabbit and Anansi, up to no good as usual. Thus sated and soothed, she falls asleep that Valentine's afternoon to the hypnotic rhythms of tropical rain. Casting off her light clothing, she dips her toes in the crystal waters of River Montine, there to bathe and bask once again in the sun-drenched, skinny-dipping innocence of childhood.
Wow. It was wonderful, Jane. Thank you very much. You take us there every time.
Yeah.
I particularly like Talk to Me of Night. I don't know why, but I do. I love it. It's just so gentle and I just love it, you know.
Memories of Dominica. It's amazing how your place of birth stays within. It gets boring. You seem to always go round and round it.
No, it's not. It's so rich. It's so rich and so much culture and colour in there and vivacity to it all and the rhythms. Beautiful. Thank you. Peter, it's your turn, please.
I'm going to read a couple of poems by Alice Oswald. One's this time via Snowdrop. A pale and pining girl, head bowed, heart gnawed, whose figure nods and shivers in a shawl of fine white wool, has suddenly appeared in the damp woods, as mild and mute as snowfall. She may not last, she has no strength at all, but stoops and shakes as if she'd stood all night on one bare foot, confiding with the moonlight. One among several hundred clear-eyed ghosts who get up in the cold and blink and turn into these trembling emblems of night frosts. She brings her burnt heart with her in an urn of ashes, which she opens to re-mourn, having no other outlet to express her wildflower sense of wounded gentleness. Yes, she's no more now than a drop of snow on a green stem. Her name is now her calling. Her mind is just a frozen, melting glow of water, swollen to the point of falling, which maybe has no meaning. There's no telling, but what a beauty, what a mighty power of patience kept intact is now in flower. And Thrift. Born by the sea, used to its no hope moan, 40 or thereabouts, lived on her own, heaved a small sigh with a handful of stone to get started. She saved up the rain. She came with her cushion to the cliffs. She sat strained in the wind in a pink old-fashioned hat. No prospect but the plunge of the beach, all except nodding, no speech. But she worked the factory rhythm of the sea's boredom, its bouts of atheism, and by the weekend set up a stall of paper flowers and sold them all. So she made substance out of lack of substance. Hard of hearing, she thrived on silence. That's Alice Aldous.
Brilliant, 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 isn't she?
Yes.
I mean, the way she links the cliff top plant with the virtue of thrift.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think Jim's just joining us.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, very good. Jim, are you ready to come in, please? We've missed you.
Yeah, I've been having a trouble with my computer actually,
I've got the
my
same,
printer,
actually,
and
yeah.
it's just driving me wild. And yeah, I'm really sick and tired of it. So, yeah.
Okay, but despite being sick and tired, have you got any poems for us?
Yeah, if you give me about until after the next person, perhaps.
So I'll do mine next then. And
yeah,
then,
okay, and I'll look for one. Yeah, okay. Super.
Okay. Well, I'm going to read one that's not mine. It's not exactly a Valentine's poem, but it's kind of in the area. It's in the ballpark, as they say these days. It's very well known. It's called Not Addlestrop by Danny Absey. Not Addlestrop, no. Besides, the name hardly matters, nor did I languish in June heat. Simply, I stood too early on the empty platform, and the wrong train came in slowly, surprised, stopped. Directly facing me from a window, a very, very pretty girl leaned out. When I, all instinct, stared at her, she, all instinct, inclined her head away, as if she divined the much married life in me, or as if she might spot up platform some unlikely familiar. For my part, under the clock, I continued my scrutiny with unmitigated pleasure, and she knew it. She certainly knew it, and would not glance at me in the silence of Not Addlestrop. Only when the train heaved noisily, only when it jolted, when it slid away, only then, daring and secure, she smiled back at my smile, and I, daring and secure, waved back at her waving. And so it was all the way down the hurrying platform as the train gathered atrocious speed towards Oxfordshire or Gloucestershire. There you go. That if you read Addlestrop by Edward Thomas, it kind of makes sense in a way, with some quite a deviation on it. You know, Edward was on about birds rather than a young woman, but there you go. And this is my little take. It's when making a new start. There's a sharp pain when falling in love with that soft interlocking of lives and of fingers comes the sharing of secrets, the dirt in one's life. Then the fear of rejection lingers. From the telling of things that once made you squirm and the ghosts of the past who won't go away, there's a hope this time for bonds to stay firm, and that from the roots of confession, a new love will sprout. Now the guilt of the past is finally out. There you go. I'll do another 3 I've got for part 2. So just in case you're all falling asleep right now. But are you ready yet, Jim? Or I could do another one if you're not. He's not ready. Well, I'll do a little. This is a little poem about childhood. Someone's not muted, and someone's using dropping F-bombs, as they say. I'll read this little poem while Jim's getting ready. This is called As If. There was a time when all things were possible. A deep enough breath would blow the sun out like a candle. The stars had to be made of all that puffy stuff, breathed out on cold days to rise as shiny ice like a clear night. A deep enough sucking in would bring the sun back to creep over the edge when it had slept long enough, like a new day. Mummy and Daddy would always be there to hold when it's scary, to tell tales of a fairy, like I'd like to be a child again. Okay, that's that one. So, well, Jim, you're okay now? Apart from being muted? You're still muted?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, Jim.
I didn't
Was
have
that you
been
getting a little bit kind of overwrought for a little while?
I'm very overwrought with this computer. I'm actually wanting to actually smash it to
Okay.
pieces actually and jump through the
Yeah,
whatever.
understandable.
Yeah.
All right.
The first one's called The Yearning. Would you like to walk with me and kick your way through autumn leaves? The God of love is there on high and wants to be our trusted guide. Would you like to hold my hand and float across the golden sands, find some place where we can hide far beyond the murmuring tides? Would you like to sleep with me in a bed of poetry, snuggle down in sheets of rhyme and live until the end of time? Would you like to hitch a ride when all the stars switch out their lights, children dreaming in the dark, waiting for their day to start? Would you like to sing with me and let the stars know how we feel? We'll listen to the whispering trees, then fall asleep among their leaves. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the first one. I can find the other one now. Yeah. Oh yeah, this one's called The Diva. She can hear the awesome silence when she steps upon the stage, as she looks for love and kindness like a songbird in a cage. The theatre is a playpen and she's their favourite child. She blows a dozen kisses and the audience go wild. They've seen her on the covers of her latest magazines. She has many different lovers, but they rarely make the scene. She's the answer to their prayers and the woman of their dreams. They have no doubt about it, she's the best they've ever seen. And she's singing every love song like it was going out of style. There could never be another who could do it half so right. They wish she was their mother, they dream she was their child. She blows a dozen kisses and the audience go wild. She's a diva, believe her, believe her. Now the years have raced away like a cloud of flying birds. The diva's voice is older now and the voice is seldom heard. For lovers are much fewer and they do not hang around, but the diva's eyes are shining and her spirit is unbowed. She still hears the awesome silence when she steps upon the stage, and she looks for love and kindness like a songbird in a cage. The theatre is a playpen and she's their favourite child. She blows a dozen kisses and the audience go wild. She's a diva, believe her, believer. Yeah, sorry, that's it.
Okay, Jim. So you're avid about divas.
Not avid about anything at the moment, actually. I'm avid about smashing my computer to pieces. And
Oh, no, steady on. John, I don't know if you heard, you were asking about Sue's book. Sue's new book is called Journey, and it's by Cinnamon Press, and it's available on Amazon from the 1st of March, 2022. Okay. Well, if you want to have a chat for, it's virtually, if we meet again like in about 5 minutes time.
Right, so this is from Mohammed. Poem 1, Choco for breakfast. I never have choco for breakfast, but today I did at long last. It was sweet to the bone and I ate it all alone and hid from my choco-less old past. Poem 2, there was a choco man called Rounders who also loved crab-stuffed flounders. When he overate, he didn't feel great, that choco man who loved crab-stuffed flounders.
Right. Well, he was actually referencing the days
Yes.
we mentioned, the special days that today represent.
Crab stuffed flounder day, yes.
Yes. And National Chocolate for Breakfast Day.
All right, yes. That's it.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much. Now we've got Steve. Are you good to go, Steve?
Me, George. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that.
You're okay now, yeah?
Yeah, I'm okay now. Thank you. In the beginning, as the Bible says, God created the heaven and the earth. This early passage in Genesis was indoctrinated into me when I first started to go to church at the age of 10. At that early age, church became a dominant experience of my adolescence and inspired my behavior to be good. At the age of 11 in church, I was given a Bible by a certain English gentleman. In it he wrote to Steve Junior for good endeavor. This gentleman, whom we used to call Dad, was a teacher of our Sunday school class. We were called a junior I. Dad would talk to us, talk to young people, and told us he was captured by the Japanese in the Second World War and how the Japanese tortured him. He was orchestral in taking us to cathedrals. He took us to Worcester, Lincoln, and Chester Cathedral, which me and my friends thoroughly enjoyed. And this one's called Picton. When I was in secondary school, my so-called best friend at the time, John Keys, would humiliate me and at school to get laughs out of me. They all used to call me Egghead because he said my head was shaped like an egg. The many taunts of Egghead was sounded around the school, and the whole school was calling me Egghead. Whenever I was on the bus and we passed the Kentucky Fried Shop, John would shout, "Junior, there's your home." Laughter rowded around me. This John Keys played on my vulnerability at that time. Me being under no parental supervision and living in the worst house on the street. My father was totally irresponsible and paid no attention to my upbringing. However, being in this desperate situation, I had some academical achievements like getting 8 A's and 5 B's in my school report with a gold star on the front of the report. Thank you, George.
Well, thank you, Steve. You're a strong man to survive all that and come out such a good person. So well done. The poems are lovely.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yes, Steve, can I just ask, you said he was your best friend?
He was my, well, I used to hang around with him all the time. Yeah, and but he was Come on, my wife, she doesn't want to hear that name in this house because she says he was no friend.
He was old.
And because
No.
I was like his only friend that went to his house, things like that. Because and I was just influenced by, I was just overawed by his tenacity. He was into jazz, and I thought that was all, that had an effect on me. Yeah.
You survived, Steve. Good on you.
Thank you. Cheers.
And true friendship is based on respect. So there you go.
Thank you.
Which is what I hope we have here, folks.
In schools, that's quite common, picking on people and having fun. It's a common thing. It's not nice, but
exactly.
Yeah. Come through it, Steve. So that's what matters.
Yeah, well done, Steve. Well done.
Thank you. God bless.
John, you got anything for us, please? O'Bard or something? Where's that? That's God knows where. Could be any market town. Is that Chichester? No, I'll give in. You're muted, John. You're muted, John. That's better.
That's better. Yeah, sorry. This is the market town of Newton Abbot down in Devon, where I got my first teaching job. Now, and also I went there a few years later to run a sports centre there. The sports centre was called Dyrons, and so I did a number of little poems, put them together, called the Byrons of Dyrons. And one of them that I'm going to do, you can just see in the middle of the town here, my finger is, there's the edge of a white building, which is the Globe Hotel. All right, that's the Globe. And it was an incident that took place. This is an account of an actual incident that took place one Friday. It was a Friday afternoon. George was basically a drunken tramp who.
That's no way to speak it to our George.
Who sort of.
You got me sussed out, John.
Quite a lot of his time in the cider bar, which had a straw on the floor and stuff like that for people to spit in on. And this Friday afternoon, it may even have been market day, I'm not sure. No, he sort of came out and he found propped up against that white building, we can only see a tiny bit of that building, propped up against the Globe was a ladder. And this is the story. This is the story of George. The day old George climbed up the Globe. The day old George climbed up the Globe, he tottered from the cider bar and seen in Bank Street, unattended, a painter's ladder. Undefended was his path to glory, and with unrelenting tread took the first step, one of many followed where the ladder led, left the dustbins far below, climbed the rungs with drunk precision. People stopped to watch him go. Higher past the ground floor window, George saw diners downing dinner. Up he climbed his Jacob's ladder, heavens welcoming a sinner. Children early out of school filled the street with jibes and made passing cars stop passing by. Someone phoned the fire brigade. Traffic warden and policeman could do nothing at the wall but appeal to George's reason. Come down, George, before you fall. George enjoyed this rare attention, turned his head to see the sight far below, the faces staring, and quite literally took fright, scurries further up the ladder to the top, beneath the roof, cramped beneath the jutting gutter, trapped, the tramp could hardly move. Voluntary fireman Millings, first to reach the lower rung, hurries up the second ladder, propped up close to George's one. Soon he's up at George's level, talking softly to the man. How about it, Dad? I'll help you get you back to Earth again. George is turning slowly, inch by inch. The rigid frame of his body is unwinding. He'll be coming down again. Fireman Millings does his duty, helps the victim in the air, holds his hand, gives reassurance, coaxes George with tender care. Heroes both descend together. Neither look as though they'll slip. Then he lets go of the ladder, puts his fingers to his lips, and suddenly the crowd is silent. On him, every eye is spied. Can this be his final gesture? Will we see a suicide? Now his hands have left his face, and his mouth is widely grinning. George is waving. In his fingers, his false teeth are slowly spinning.
That was very amusing.
It really happened. Oh, it was so funny. Anyway, right, there we go. I probably did this one last week. I can't remember.
Okay.
South London love song.
Okay.
The distance between us is not so far. There's only Herne Hill, Brixton, Clapham, Wandsworth, Putney, Richmond, and Hounslow between this hand and yours. And I know a bus would take me to your place. The distance between this hand, your voice, and mine is not so far. Just a few numbers and a phone, and I'm learning your code as fast as I can. At times, you seem so close. It's not this biro that I'm holding as I write. I'll start that again. At times, you seem so close. It's not this biro, but your hand I'm holding as we write our lives together.
You did do that one, John, and it's rather lovely. It's rather lovely. So very apt for this month. Very nice.
Thank you, Phil. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, Anne, have you got anything for us, please?
Yep. It's a poem called To Those Who Follow Me. To those who follow me, so far ahead you haven't yet been born, I leave this message. If you've an interest in who we were, look in the 20th century censuses until you come to 1961. There you will find us, Anne and Peter Smith, married the year before, and filling in together our first census. Imagine your surprise when you find he's called the captain. I am mate. Though in those unenlightened times I should explain I was the breadwinner. Since I was older, he's still a student. But yet he was the household's head and I the wife or mate. Those were the rules. What, you will wonder, can these titles mean? Were we of fishing stock and owned a boat to earn our living catching, selling fish? This answer makes no sense when you can see the boat we lived on was in Oxfordshire, just outside Oxford on the River Thames, where it is known as Isis by the folk who like to use historic names. Why did we live there? Then, as now, decisions made because of poverty. We couldn't afford a house or flat in town. Was it idyllic? I seem to hear you ask, down through the sentimental years. Well, yes and no, I say, depending on which bank you faced when you were on the boat. One bank was on the border of the park, where trees and pastures captivate the eye and songbirds serenade the passing lovers. Alas, on the other bank our boat was moored against the municipal rubbish, where all day long the rumbling lorries came to dump the detritus of the Oxford homes. One day, I've seen it since, and so I know it would become the site of playing fields, as green and pretty as the opposing side, but not when we lived there. On Sunday mornings, student boats came by, practicing oarsmanship from early hours. We were awoken by the gentle swell of waters from the boat race hopeful wakes. Cries through loud hailers on the other bank as coaches cycled past. In, out, and easy oars, and bloody well rowed, chaps. In contrast, sometimes we'd look out and see, in total silence, coming up the river, a flock of quiet bathing hats swimming to breakfast at the Iffley Inn. And when the human beings gave them space, swans, ducks and coots would swim majestically or bob along the surface of the water, while voles and shrews foraged along the bank until they met our cat, who caught and ate them, all but the tails and feet, and those she left a kindly offering upon the boat. You won't find any of this in your research, but we'll be left to speculate on who we were and how we managed there. You'll get it wrong, just as I know we do when piecing facts together, trying to make sense of what we know about our ancestors.
And that's a bit of a masterpiece. That's a wonderful poem.
It's long, sorry.
Well, it is long, but it's relevant and it's very good. So, and it tells a life, and it tells a love, and it tells a place. You can't do more than that. Life, love, and place. Can you? Well done, lovely. Have you got another one, or are you going to rest your vocals?
I'll rest on my laurels.
Okay.
Yeah, well done, Anne.
Your laurels and your vocals. Yeah, it's very good, very good. Anthony, have you anything for us, please? You're still muted, Anthony. You need to unmute. That's it.
Yeah, I got a poem about my dad's holiday with me.
Excellent, thank you.
1979. A father returns to his birth country and then joins on the garden route. From Johannesburg to East London by plane, we enjoyed our cook sister Biscuit on board. On the road, we saw a Scottish man with his maid sell rugs in the middle of nowhere. Then to Plettenberg Bay, my parents' honeymoon abode. We saw the August Wells at the Lookout Hotel through telescopic lenses with a Canadian's F1 camera. The waitresses were no more than 16 years old, laughing profusely amongst themselves. We travelled to Cape Town, but I was no fit to join another wine tour. I was too tired from a car trip.
Very good. I like that. Very nice, Anthony.
Yeah. A cook sister is a biscuit.
Okay. That's a bit. That makes it a bit more understandable. It's very good. Nice poem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you any more, or is that it?
I see if I have. Hold on.
We have the luxury of time at the moment.
I got a short poem about Boris.
Fine. Okay.
Okay, it's called Pale Suns Move in Electric Light, their yellow hair brittle like straw, contemptuous of time and place, such an unceasing gauze.
Not your favourite person then?
No, not at all.
I don't
Don't
think
forget
he was.
he was for London Mayor and he made a mess of that.
Yeah. Well, apart from being an unprincipled liar, there's not much wrong with him, I suppose. Anyway, Jane, have you anything for us, please?
Yes, I've chosen two.
Lovely.
The first is called Walthamstow Market. That's my local market. And it's supposed to be the longest market in London. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, Walthamstow Market. People shopping, people walking, talking so loud in a surging crowd. Turkish, English, Patois, Punjabi, Cockney, Igbo, Polish, Somali, all jostling for position in a spicy language callaloo. People moving, people grooving, some of them skiving, more eyeing than buying. Vendors busy, selling and calling. Sweet mangoes, only $2.50 a box. Come on, girls, cheap tomatoes today, 50p the lot. Buy your bananas. Stomachs rumbling to smells of food tumbling from trailers and cafes, stands and sidewalks. Fish and chips, jelly deals, rice and peas, curry good. Onion barges, hot pakoras, codfish fritters, johnny cakes, shish and donnas, eggy noodles, Jamaican patties, Cornish pasties. There for the tasting, yours father asking, washed down nicely with sorrel and ginger beer, lassie or real ale. Take your pick, give yourself a treat. You'll need all your strength to stay on your feet as you mosey on down London's longest market street. People chatting, people laughing, easing down the high street in tattoos and Mohicans, scarves and shalwars, jeans and t-shirts, combats and baseball caps. Young ones, old ones, big ones, little ones, fat ones, skinny ones, black, brown and white ones, all in a bargain hunting, cut price seeking, culture mixing, Walthamstow lively market spree.
Amen.
You get a sense of it. You want to go there, don't you?
Yes, we do. Yeah, Igbo, yes.
Yes. Languages. I suppose for most markets in London, you get all these languages, you know, and people just enjoying themselves. That's a very short one. It's called Voice from the Ghetto. The first 4 lines I heard on the radio, and I heard these 4 lines, and that inspired me to think of children who are quite poor and they have a difficult time, but not everybody goes down the route, you know, of jails and all of that. A lot of them escape because they're strong and they get supported and they come out of that world where they could have gone out, you know, the other way. When it's cold outside, this house cold. When it's raining outside, this house rain too. Whatever nature do, this house do. That's where I live. That's my home. Rage on, chill winds. You don't scare this boy. Strike up lightning, do your worst. He's not afraid. Roll on thunder if you must. You can't touch him. For has he not hoodwinked the drug pusher, the knife wielder, the gun slinger? Shut his flimsy door on violence, scorched dank depressions to fan the flames of hope, swaddling himself in the mantle of love, which every so often flickers in his grandmother's weary eyes. The desert which surrounds him may be bleak, but the cooling draughts from his oasis, when it comes, will all the more sweetly quench his thirst. And Jackie, my illustrator, ended up with a rose plant growing in the middle of, you know, dry earth. So this kid will survive what's around him, I thought, yeah.
And Jane, well done. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Well done. You know, 2 lovely poems. I'm glad I don't have to follow you sometimes. It's lovely. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you for listening so well, everybody.
Yeah. Peter.
I was going to read a couple of poems by Ted Hughes. So having read one Snowdrop poem by Alice Oswald, this is Ted Hughes' Snowdrop poem. Now is the globe shrunk tight round the mouse's dulled wintering heart. Weasel and crow, as if moulded in brass, move through an outer darkness, not in their right minds, with the other deaths. She too pursues her ends, brutal as the stars of this month, her pale head heavy as metal. So, and a poem for today called Wind, also by Ted Hughes. This house has been far out at sea all night, the woods crashing through darkness, the booming hills, wind stampeding the fields under the window, floundering black astride and blinding wet, till day rose. Then under an orange sky, the hills had new places, and wind wielded blade-like, luminous black and emerald, flexing like the lens of a mad eye. At noon, I scaled along the house side as far as the coal house door. I dared once to look up. Through the brunt wind that dented the balls of my eyes, the tent of the hills drummed and strained its guy rope. The fields quivering, the skyline a grimace, at any second to bang and vanish with a flap. The wind flung a magpie away, and a black-back gull bent like an iron bar slowly. The house rang like some fine green goblet in the note that any second would shatter it. Now, deep in chairs, in front of the great fire, we grip our hearts and cannot entertain book, thought, or each other. We watch the fire blazing and feel the roots of the house move, but sit on, seeing the window tremble to come in, hearing the stones cry out under the horizons. So it's Ted Hughes on a windy day.
Yeah, always at his best when writing about nature, isn't he?
Yes.
Wonderful. Doesn't miss much. He wrote a poem called The Calf, and it describes his calf's eye, and it's such a beautiful poem. You know, he probably knows it. Yeah. Okay, now there's something unusual about these last two poems that I've written. What's unusual about them is I didn't have to do the rhyming because I pinched the last word of every line from somewhere else, from a hymn, in fact. Don't know if you'll recognize them. Anyway, the content is mine and the direction is mine. It's only the last words I pinched in each line. So here we go. When the wheat is cut down is the name of the poem. Living things move in their own time, just as trees in the breeze nod their green, shaken by the hand of some great God with a presence more felt than seen. The ancients thought such force divine when wind whirled down the hills, scattering oak leaves from there to here, grinding wheat for the sows of their mills, to make men rich when sold for gold, opening eyes up to greed and desire. Thus did the drive for gold unfold when kings and nobles set fields on fire. Poor peasants were forced to fight their fight. No spoils passed from the rich man's hand. Not for them a new Jerusalem in this ravaged, burnt, benighted land. Anyone know what that's from?
Oh.
No, it's the last line of each. It's the last line of Jerusalem each time.
All right. Okay.
And did those feet in ancient times walk upon England's mountains green? So every last word is from Jerusalem. So it takes you in a very different direction, doesn't it? If you
Very
go there.
clever.
That was clever, George. Very
And I'm gonna do
Very good.
another one in the same thing. See if you can get this one. It's called Marching Forward. Once more we hear the threats of war, the troops amassing as before. Yet who is asking what it's for, as leaders tell the young to go, to face the violence, not to flee, so they can claim their victory. Then bask in glory, take the praise, and their flags and profits raise. Who they've ever made their wealth their God, not the bones on which they've trod. It's not them or us. It's not them or us, but we who abandon love and charity when convinced our course is true we leave behind our morals too. So generals can gloat on what they hold, the land on which their tanks just rolled. To hope thoughts of their slaughter wane, and only those of their glory remain. What will it take for peace to prevail, to ensure the road to war will ever fail? It's never been the voices of the throng, all silenced by the anthem song, the tool of tyrant and of king. Now it's time to hear the people sing. There you are.
Land of Hope and Glory.
No, not quite. No, Onward Christian Soldiers.
Oh,
War before,
Yeah.
go, flee, victory.
Very
praise.
clever.
Yeah, there you go.
You need to send
Anyway.
it to Putin, George. Send it to
Send
Vladimir.
it to Rasputin, yeah.
Yeah, no, not
Yeah.
Putin, that awful Mr. Putin in Russia.
Not,
Honestly.
not nice, man. No.
No.
Mm.
Thank you. It's really
Mm. It's quite. I didn't think of the concept. There's one of our little poets in Wellington, Sue. She thought of the idea. She did a poem about it, and I thought that's clever. So I started doing it, and you don't have to worry about rhyming because someone's already done it for you, like Blake. You know, when Blake rhymes.
word. You get the word from another poem and put it to yours.
The last word of each.
But it fitted in so well. It's
Yes, you've still got to try and fit the words into that last word to make sense.
Yeah. It takes you in very different directions, doesn't it? Obviously, I mean, you wouldn't guess that two anti-war poems basically came out of two hymns praising war. Really, onward Christian soldiers. You know, that's kind of glorified in a way.
I must try that to see if it'll work. It's very clever, I find. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoy doing it.
Try to.
Mm.
Thanks, George.
Can I
Yeah.
give you a quotation, George?
Yes.
Oh, enough. If something in our hands will live to serve the future hour. That one? That one? No? Or, no. Oh, the quotation of.
A quotation I came across recently, and I thought it was very clever indeed. They tried to bury us. They did not know we were sea.
Yes.
Yes, it was
That
lovely. That's good.
Really
Yeah.
clever.
Yes, yeah, it's amazing that. And
That's
still,
one of the works of Dinos Christianopoulos, 1931 to 2020, of whom I had never heard.
no, I sent it to you, didn't I? I found it. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
like, it reminds me of Maya Angelou's poem, and Still I Rise.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
you
Yes.
slap me down and still I rise, you know.
That's a one.
Powerful. That's powerful. Yeah.
Mm,
Amazing.
Well,
mm.
good night, everyone. Thank you
Good
very
night, Jane.
Always
Night,
good.
Hi,
Jane.
Jane.
God bless you.
Yes.
Nice to see you, Jane. See you at the 1st of next month, hopefully.
First of